For my head is covered with dew, my locks with the drops of night. He is a miserable love, waiting in the cold night on her doorstep. He does not come in an imposing manner, but he implores. He is not a lord and master. He does not rush in with strength and splendor, and she would only be able to kneel lovingly before him. But this time, he comes in dressed as the poorest and most pitiful of all, with this face of a humiliated servant, which should also be hers. And he is begging, he is asking for compassion, even though he is the richest and happiest of all. Of course, he is rich. He fulfills her so totally. But he is also poor because he is never fulfilled. In truth, he is the greatest, the highest, but also the smallest, because the characteristic of love is always to lower oneself. And he is also the living water, the inexhaustible fountain, and whosoever brings his lips to him experiences the fact that from him flow fountains of living water. But at the same time, he is a thirsty beggar on the side of the road imploring, "Give me a drink." He is the thirsty fountain. As St. Augustine puts it in one of his magnificent sentences, he is in need as the one who is about to receive, and he is in abundance as the one who is going to fulfill. And this passage always reminds me of the woman at the well. I think is where we see this image of the bridegroom so clearly. Sitting at the well, asking for a drink, thirsting for her love, but then offering all of himself to her, being the one who provides the living water, the thirsty fountain. And this idea that he is the one who fulfills us so totally, and yet he is never fulfilled. And if we think about that, what he thirsts for is for souls and for the love of souls and the salvation of souls. When will he be fulfilled? How thirsty he is, and how it's I think it's a great place to go in our examination of conscience. It's one way that I, again, use the song to pray, is to think about how often I get so focused on my needs being fulfilled, my desires being fulfilled, his promise, you've promised, right? You've promised to fulfill my needs and my desires, and yet his go unfulfilled. How often do we think about his unfulfilled desires? How often do we seek to quench his thirst instead of being worried that ours isn't being quenched? There's a beautiful quote from Saint Therese on these lines. She wrote, "Open to me, my sister, my beloved, for my face is covered with dew, my locks with the drops of night." That is what Jesus says to our souls when he is abandoned and forgotten. Forgetfulness, it seems to me, that is this which causes him the greatest sorrow. He thirsts just to be remembered, just for a small act of love, a token of affection from his bride. I think this poem from John of the Cross goes so well right here as we think about this. So it's on page 247. The very moving poem of the shepherd. A lonely shepherd goes in pain, no pleasure or joy for him, for he always thinks about his shepherdess, and his heart is heavy with love. He does not weep because of love's wound, for this is not his pain, though pain is gripping his heart. He weeps, thinking himself forgotten. This very thought of being forgotten by his shepherdess is his great pain. He is so outraged in a remote land and heartbroken with love. Alas, says the shepherd, how unhappy the one whose love chases him away so far from her heart. She did not want to enjoy my presence and left my heart so crushed with love. Then, after a long time, slowly, he climbed on a tree, stretched his beautiful arms, and died, held fast by those arms, heartbroken with love. And yet he's so easy to love. He really asks so little. Just a glance. Just a word as we go through our day. Jesus, I love you. I'm thinking of you. What delight, what comfort that brings his thirsting, aching heart.